Nope.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Got a late start to my week. I was doing stuff around the house all weekend, and
I see.
yesterday I built a shed, and man,
Oh, nice.
I am not as limber as I used to be with lumber.
Yeah, no, I was in Austin last week. All
Mm,
week we had an offsite, well, an on-site actually, with the team. So it's kind of
uh,
like I'm going back next week again. So uh, gonna be
uh, well, this is a good time of year for it. It's not too hot yet. It's
it's
pretty hot
it's
now.
it's okay. It's yeah yeah. Starting June, it becomes a little bit more challenging. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I worked for Thales, we had
Mm,
acquired Gemalto, and with that came an office in Austin,
mm.
where most of our North American leadership was based. So I was there a lot, and got a lot of
Okay.
tacos. Spent a lot of time just exploring the area. It's really cool. The bats are very weird, but other than that, it's really cool.
So I assume you used to go to Paris then often because
Oh yeah,
uh yeah, because I've
yeah.
like so I have family in Paris, so like I go at
Oh
least
cool.
once a year. So and my wife is French from as well, so
Oh,
yeah, a lot of times. And I had a friend who worked at Thales 20 years ago. He said the city of
mm.
Paris now is actually in the IT department, kind of
Oh
like
cool.
overseeing infrastructure and stuff like that. But which is like we don't realize it's just like what's almost 8 million people. It's a country in a way, right? These
It is.
mega cities, like all yeah. He worked a lot on open data project like 20 years ago, just for
Yeah,
the
cool.
buses and sharing all the transportation information like opened up. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Talos is it's interesting. Like when I first knew them, I only knew them for their HSMs and their hardware business because
Mm,
that's how I got.
yeah,
They were
yeah,
one of our
yeah.
suppliers for many years when I was
Mm,
doing a software company. And
mm.
um, when I joined them, I got to tour a lot of their sites,
Oh,
and particularly
huge.
in
They're
Europe, and
huge.
they're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
huge. I mean,
yeah.
they do everything, flight
Oh,
training to like
yeah,
automated rail to satellite systems, like
yeah.
you name it,
No,
they
no,
got their
they're
fingers in it.
huge. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those like not very known giants, I would say.
Yeah,
It's not. They're not necessarily. I guess maybe because it's just the yeah. For some reason, like I personally know it because like I'm French native speaker, so I know the French
that's true.
companies, and so yeah. So
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick us out. Michael's
yeah.
gonna be a little late, and we might be a
Okay.
little short today. But there was at least one thing I wanted to
Sure.
recap on, which is our meeting with BSI, and then we
Yeah.
have another one coming up on Thursday.
Thursday, yes.
I expect to get a document back from them before then,
Hmm.
and so once I do, I'll pass it along. I'll put it in the drive and pass it along in the chat.
Okay.
Um,
Sounds good.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the it's becoming apparent to me that this group is not going to get that big. We're going to be five to
That's
six people,
okay.
and I think that's fine because
Yeah.
we're meant to try to move certain pieces around that can be helpful for the benefit of the TAC, for the benefit of the GB and others. Because I think that we can be helpful on the ground in certain places
Hmm.
and still help lead to some extent the strategy of things like the CACAF and all that. But I think it's going to be you know I think I'd love your input, but I think it's going to be really helpful and impactful if the TAC in particular is aligned with us on the CACAF.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I brought actually internally, speaking of last week where we had that on-site and um, that basically we at least for AMD within CCC to support that. And well, some of them are not obviously as familiar. I shared the document with a couple of stakeholders.
Oh, cool.
So I'm kind of gradually, lobbying internally for that. So far, no resistance,
Cool.
nothing really. Yeah, the one thing I would say, I don't know if I mentioned that before or not, but the one stakeholder internally mentioned concern about the, there's obviously different levels in the
Yep.
framework, like how much of that will dilute the confidential computing, like if the first one or two levels, like
Hmm.
I don't want to call them entry level, but like baseline level, maybe. This is my terminology. That's
Entry level.
because
There you go.
yeah, yeah. So it's like then, and his comment was more about the message, not the messaging on the understanding of someone who's not as familiar with, but the counterpoint to that, and if I like to play a little bit devil's advocate sometimes, is, well, most of the time, people who read this type of document know what this is about. So, but on
Right.
the it's just like, like when you start, like, if someone doesn't understand what they are reading, we should
Right.
just, again, messaging, or again, the document was no resistance to the concept
Sure.
itself, but it's more about the first two
Who's
levels,
the
I think.
audience? Yeah.
Yeah, but also the first two levels, how much this will, like, are we diluting? Like, that's, it was provocative kind of statement.
Sure.
Is like, are we diluting like computational computing definition? That's the thing that he brought up. So, but again, I'm continuing that conversation internally. I set up time with the person to get more of his concern, so that, and I'll
Cool.
bring it back. I'll bring it back here if it, if it re, if you don't
Awesome.
agree, if I don't agree with him, or if we, like, we don't get to a point of convergence, and it's really, if it's a really strong point he has, I'll bring it to the group here. So,
Awesome.
because I can imagine that others who might be reading the document for the first time might react the same way. So that's
Mhm.
how I'm thinking about it. I'm not thinking about
Right.
AMD. I'm thinking about, it's like, hey, a
Right.
regulator, or someone who's looking to a standard is like, oh, so this computational computing is like, oh, this kind of
Right.
definition for years, but now we're talking, which is great. We're talking about assurance framework, right? So that's
Hmm.
even actually more tangible than just
Right.
kind of theoretical, well, not theoretical, but general definition, maybe is a better way
Yep.
to describe it. Yeah.
No, that's really good feedback. I like controversial because it gets things right to the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to talk about them. So I think I think there's a couple things that I observed from that. One is, we do sort of presume the audience is, people like us that are, and the
Yes.
regulators and others that will test us against these things we say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's part of what I took away from the meeting last week at BSI.
Mm-hmm.
They're, I mean, they know quite a bit about security domains and whatever. They don't know a lot about confidential compute as a technology
Yeah.
because it's just not something that's been in their, ecosystem. That said,
Mm-hmm.
they're now getting into it and they're, very supportive and all that great stuff. So they're learning, our vernacular when they're really looking at it from their 70, 80 years worth of, responsibility on this stuff that they've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar, right? Trying to protect the box is
Yeah.
not
Mm.
new. It's just now we have, new tricks inside the box that we're
Yeah.
trying to, bring to the table. And, they come with vulnerabilities sometimes. They come with, compromises, or they come with, a perfect, perfect building block that you can continue to build upon. Those are the things they're looking for just as much as we are. So I think there's the who's the audience, but I also, I think what we're trying to do is, this is my opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
this is me personally, not Google necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I look at, our mission is to try to create a path towards CC being ubiquitously adoptable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to adopt it, but it can't happen until we're adoptable. Like, it's got to be no
Mm-hmm.
controversy. I can turn it on, and it doesn't drop or diminish my security parameters as a
Yes.
regulated
Yeah.
entity, right? That's the hat I'm wearing. It's like I'm a bank and I'm being governed by these regulators, and anything I do that lowers that, I have to have a conversation with them, and I have to get
Yeah.
most likely clearance for that. So, anyways, I think I really resonate with the statement about diluting, and it's not
Hmm.
just diluting our statement as confidential compute. It
Hmm.
does confidential compute dilute the statements of other systems that are currently being
Yes. Yeah.
used, right?
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there, for sure. Cool. Well, we can just do the turbo version of administration today. So we've come to order. I think we're talking. That's great. No
Yeah.
one new here. That's great. No major updates other than we've had the meeting on the 21st with BSI.
Mhm.
There's minutes. Michael was able to get me that last night, so we can look at that from 2 weeks ago. And
Mhm.
then I did just want to sort of recap. If you had any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. But I'm just going to put in enough detail on my notes to get me ready for this next meeting. And after that, I expect to send an update to the GB. I will be, of course, on the GB call on Wednesday, so I won't
Mhm.
be able to like give them a full throated here's what they think unless I get a document between now and then.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense. Yeah.
hopefully I'll just set the stage when I meet with them on Wednesday that our first regulator, we've had our first talk with them, we're having a second talk with them, they're reviewing the CAF. They were very excited about it, or at least encouraging about it. I think the takeaway for me is we need to do more of these, but I don't know how many more of these.
Hmm.
Do I don't want to spend all year just talking to regulators. I'd rather have something to work on, like a goal. I think that goal is the CACAF leads us to one or more artifacts that we could work with many regulators
Yes.
on
Yeah.
at once. So,
Yeah. In terms of the meetings, I would say we definitely agree with you. That's not just like a volume. I think it's more about, you know, maybe being strategic, in the
mhm,
sense that we target the ones who are already publicly, and then through our individual here on the SIG, and through their experience, we know that they definitely are interested and would be interested.
mhm,
I think that we target them. The one thing I would, and I'm sure that's not what you said, but I'm just saying, like, I would not reduce too much, because we also want to make sure that we are building something that's meaningful to them, right? That's
sure,
in there.
absolutely.
That's the one thing I would say. But it's not like, I think between BSI, ANSI in France, and the UK as well, like, those are like, that gives us good
Yeah,
coverage on Europe. I personally think
yeah,
Singapore would be a good target as well,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah.
Just through meetings I had, not through CCC, but through my company.
Mhm,
Um, the US is, like, we're already like each company, and we are, I think, maybe, as a CCC, though, talking to them, maybe some
mhm,
of the regulators in the US, formally as CCC and not as individual companies, as most of us probably have done. So that's something I would think about. I would consider.
okay,
That's my actually suggestion to the SIG here, to the group, to think about. I'm not saying that's like, but I think between those three, in the Europe, Singapore, and I think the US, as far as I know, I'm not sure, like, CCC went to US
mhm,
regulators as CCC. That's something that,
mhm,
um,
okay,
maybe something to consider, because I think we have a gap, in my opinion, there. Um, like, I definitely talked with, like, through my company for sure, but that the purpose here is to show that, actually, hey, look, all these companies are coming together, even competitors, but because we
mhm,
believe so much in the technology, that we think it's going to be really, a very useful, and brings a lot of goodness to into the ecosystem as a whole. So yeah,
very
that's
well said.
that's
Good.
just my suggestion.
No, yeah, you're right. You were make it's really to make sure that we're capturing the side that you were discussing. I was looking, mainly for there's a middle ground, there's
Hmm.
the middle path that we have to find between, how much regulatory um, existing work that we want to influence or work with, and how much do
Hmm.
we want to bring them towards our way of thinking as a
Hmm.
community or as
Hmm.
the industry, basically, and find that balancing of the scales between the
Yeah.
two. So that's a good point. Well, hello. We got a couple of other visitors. Hello,
Yes.
Jens
Yeah.
and me too.
Good morning. Sorry, I was a bit late, but
No
jumping
worries.
in.
Yes.
I
No
should
worries here.
have by the end of that week, this week, probably latest early next week, I will share with you guys here from this group the MITRE framework
Nice.
for continuous remote attestation. So it's confidential computing in general and best practice, but it's a huge focus on continuous remote attestation. And the I'm one of the leads on that group with MITRE. It's not a regulator, right? It's not NIST, but we have contact with NIST, but it's mostly because the government itself wants to set some internal foundations for continuous remote attestation for confidential computing, because more and more they use it for critical infrastructure, lots of topics from some regulator agencies. Everywhere where things get really, really sensitive, they want
Hmm.
to utilize confidential computing. They want to utilize it in a way where it's not just happening at boot, but there's a multi-layered approach to securing it with in a continuous way.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's what we work on. That framework is done. We got the green light for publishing from MITRE leadership. Um, the first document that we will share with the public, probably first week of June, will be a public review document. So we want to encourage everyone to comment on it and give their 2 cents, and then at some point move it into a full MITRE framework. But yeah, that's where we are with that. I should be able to share it with you guys here internally. Yeah, hopefully end of this week, latest early next week. But that's really the latest now. We have a publication timeline. Finally there.
Awesome. 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 Well, thanks for
Mhm.
that. I'm looking forward to it.
It's
Continuous,
quite a read.
authentication or an attestation, things like that. Those really, once implemented, really change certain
Yeah,
security guarantees a lot,
a lot.
right? Because it's not,
Yeah.
you don't take a one-time trust measurement. It's, continuous forever.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Be
Um,
interesting.
I I did put in. I just put a link to the CACAF in the chat if you don't have it handy. I'm curious. It, it's fast forward 6 months, whatever, and we're sort of getting mature with that, continuous attestation. Is that
Mhm.
something that impacts or changes any element of the framework? There's, we have assurances in there, but they're not continuous. We have some that's, more the runtime, that's not
Yeah.
necessarily, boot time. So it's like there's a middle ground somewhere in there, right? And I don't know if we add another layer or it's just, an extra point or less a point for not having. I don't know. I think we'll get to learn a little bit, but there might be a space in there that we want to just augment or add an additional layer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. You will see when you see uh, literally the document I will share. It's very in depth. There are some things that are held relatively loose, but some are very specific. So want to recommend it. Yeah, you will see when you see the document. There's certainly something for the CCAF to maybe take from that. Maybe we change something on the MITRE framework. Let's see. I had a look at this already. I think we talked about it very briefly. Well, I saw it when you presented it to
Mhm.
BSI, right?
Right.
And there are several overlapping elements that are quite interesting. You will
Okay.
see. I think this is something where we should sit down, maybe separately or in this working group or wherever you think it makes sense,
Yeah, we can
and
pull
talk
together a
about some
separate
of the
group for that.
details.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
probably.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's quite a topic because there's a lot of, especially with the kernel, right? There's a lot,
Mm.
very deep. I don't know. Do you know Dr. Paul Rover and Joshua
No,
Goodman? Um,
they're not familiar.
they're pretty much the leading attestation people at MITRE,
Ah,
and they wrote recently a paper. Um, Let me share that with you. 1 second. Which doesn't directly apply to, oh yeah, here it is. Which doesn't directly apply to confidential computing, but indirectly, designing trustworthy layered attestations. Perry Alexander, Joshua Goodman, Paul Rover. So Goodman and Rover are both MITRE. Perry is
mm,
from Kansas State, and he does lots of work with Invari, which is the kernel integrity tool that the NSA came up with.
mm,
Um,
very
and
cool.
yeah, it's very interesting. And the maxims in this paper, the rules, the guidelines in this paper are very, very valuable if you want to design attestation in confidential computing. I'm writing currently a follow-up paper on this that addresses 2 specific maxims in there, but that will take another 7, 8 months or so. But it's a very interesting read. Like, have a look.
Cool. Well, thank you. Excellent. So I think we're caught up on the BSI, caught up on the CACAF. I don't have any new business to propose at the moment. Anybody else have any other requests, ideas, comments?
Hi, I'll introduce myself. I'm Neeta Chase. I am closely involved as a product lead, as a head of product. And one of those which we're trying to bring in is confidential computing, apart from my whole product portfolio, which is around cryptography, tokenization, masking, HSM, KMS, etc. The other is confidential computing, and I'm joining to learn more about. I know we who have from JPMC a lot of active Mark Novak and Michael Guzman and all that. So
Mhm.
I've been trying to find time to get to these meetings to learn more.
Yeah,
My side primarily is not on, we don't dive in the tech as much, but more of the adoption as much. So I think I'm happy to share what we're hearing from the customers, what is the hesitance, what are the challenges, what are the questions they come up with. I'm curious to understand. Yeah, we realized early on that TEs are not going to be sufficient. So we will be looking at attestations. And I'm asking similar questions to my team. Do we build by partner on those? How do we go about it? So just wanted to give you some background, and I'm happy to engage with the right people if there are more people like me who are into like how do we get people understand that this is a gap right now, then why they need to adopt it, and if they need to adopt it, what is the uphill, and how can we reduce that uphill?
fantastic. Thanks for joining. You'll find that you have a lot of support and similar interests here. For me, I'll introduce myself. So I'm Solomon Gates. I'm a senior PM at Google. I focus primarily on trusted environments, regulated environments, and sovereign environments, which means encryption keys, encryption keys, encryption keys, encryption keys. All just different forms of it. So confidential compute and KMS and HSMs and those things are sort of my daily focus. And just to sort of align with you, like for me, it's not just the external customers I work with, it's the internal customers. How do we work on adopting more CC to take the level up, in some cases, because, memory-based cryptography is very helpful in certain architectures where you might be crossing a network or something. So there's a lot of pieces that just education and driving towards ubiquitous adoption is the goal.
Yes,
So
and we've been doing a lot of evangelization. I got a lot of people excited, but then I need to get this delivered. I actually submitted a talk at DEF CON about, this is like, how do you go from such emerging techs and the challenges? So you and I should be best friends. Next time I'll include you in the talk. We can present it together. You know my challenges.
I do. I appreciate it. Ab, do you want to go next? Give a little intro, or do you already know?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's the first time. Nice to meet you, Nitu. So I'm Abnasef. I'm Director of Product Management at the Product Security Office at AMD, based in Toronto. My focus is security in general, but specifically confidential computing, both to the CCC as well as internally, making sure that our technology is evolving and making sure that the ecosystem and the world hears about CCC and CC specifically. I sit on this SIG as well, the outreach committee. So happy as well to, as I mentioned before in different meetings here at the SIG, that if anything we need to leverage on communication perspective, happy to relay that to the chair, Laura Martinez, and the co-chair Rachel as well. Yeah. So
I love to contribute to the outreach one because I think that fits, and this is, let me say, this is the first time I'm meeting so many product people in these kind of SIGs, because most of the times I see architects and engineering. So it's a happy surprise. But yeah, I love to help, with the relevant SIGs.
Yeah.
If you can guide me, I'm happy to go.
Yeah, okay. If you post, I'll post my email address, and then I'll connect you with the chair, and you're welcome. It's open to everyone to join, and the recordings of like this one as well are on YouTube. And yeah, so if you send me an email, your email, I can as well connect you with Laura, and she'll do all that's needed to send you to connect to get you into the group as well. Which reminds me, actually, Solomon, I don't know if you have it in the slides, but just realized, I don't know, like on the outreach committee and in most of the committees, we always have that introduction, antitrust and everything. Like we need to kind of open up. Yeah, there you go. Okay, we need to go. Actually, every meeting we need to go through that. Just sorry, not to be pedantic, but yeah. So just a reminder, so that she's an open organization. We, et cetera, et cetera. So, no, you don't have to read the whole thing, but just a reminder.
I'll make sure it's up.
Yeah,
I'll make sure it's up. Yeah, I usually do, but not today.
Yeah, that's right. Just
yeah, and I think, Jens, please go ahead. Maybe you can do a quick introduction as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jens Albers, CTO, founder of FrontierX. We're a startup, we're 4 years in now, and had quite a journey behind us. So maybe growing a little bit out of the startup phase. But yeah, we have a product that makes it relatively easy for any company to deploy confidential computing. It's open source. You deploy it in your own infrastructure. It comes with fleet management. It comes with multi-cloud deployments. We have a continuous remote attestation integrated into that. So it's not just at boot time, but we measure 91 different attestation measurements, and that lead to attestations across whichever workload you are deploying. We work a lot with MITRE, with US government. I'm on the governing board of the CCC, and I'm the co-lead of the MITRE working group for continuous remote attestation. So yeah, it's an exciting time right now for confidential computing, I think, and it's developing fast. It's very exciting. I work a lot actually with AMD here and GCP too, mostly because of Coconut SVSM, which is in private preview with Google, which makes me very happy because it's really a fantastic development where you can control even so much more than most people even know about confidential computing. So very exciting times. Sorry, I'm a bit deviating here from what I wanted to say, but good to meet you, Nitu. And Mark Novak, I work a lot with him regularly from JP Morgan. And also, you have also a very bright group on the investment side that is very familiar with confidential computing.
I would love to connect with them. I do have to jump to a meeting, but I couldn't connect with you on LinkedIn. If you can find me, or
Yeah.
Okay.
I sent my email as well. So I'd love to connect. Within us, we have a lot of silos.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Cheers, bye.
Decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if Michael's gonna make it sometime in the next half hour. So it's probably not worth holding out for him at the moment. But is there any other topics, business follow-ups that we should be taking care of?
Nope, not on my side.
Cool. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up a little early. I'll
Yeah.
send out minutes probably late this week. And then I've got, as I said, there's an invite. I think you both have it for Thursday. It's
Yes.
Yeah.
early, but it's German, so we'll work with it. At least for me, I'm on the West Coast. So it's really early for me. And I think that our expectation is we'll be read back from them and probably get more questions. And I think it would be helpful just as a team to go into mindset that they're looking at this. I think they did a good job of explaining it. They're looking at this like, what does this mean for German interests, particularly
Mhm.
certain classifications of data and whatnot. So while we're looking at Ubiquity, we're also looking at with them because it's the view they have is there's certain classifications of data they want to see. Does this improve it or reduce it? Those are the things they'll be concerned with. So, anyways, just an echo from our earlier conversation. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it up, and
All right.
we'll see each other in a couple weeks, or actually in a couple days. See you on
Yes.
Thursday.
Yes.
All right.
Sounds good.
Cheers.
See you
Thanks,
then.
guys.
Have a
Anyway,
great day.
bye.